before we get into everything, we are going to start with Mike Waltz. And with Mike Waltz being out of a fucking job. This is courtesy of Politico. President Donald Trump ousted Mike Waltz, who has lost the confidence of other administration officials from his national security advisor position on Thursday. Originally, when I read this article, it was merely a report. There was a paragraph in here specifically that mentioned how Donald Trump very frequently goes against what he tells to other administration officials and what he tells people even publicly. It continues. Trump announced Thursday afternoon that he would nominate Waltz to be his ambassador to the United Nations, although Trump did not give an indication when this would happen. Politico reported earlier on Thursday before the president's announcement that Trump was planning to remove him from his role, according to 5 people familiar with the decision, all of whom were guaranteed anonymity to discuss information that is not public. Why did Donald Trump force Mike Waltz to resign? It's very simple. It's because Mike Waltz is a blithering idiot. He is a bumbling buffoon. He is a legitimate dumbass. Many instances before on this show, do I call people stupid and dumb just to be mean to them, just to insult them? In some instances, I am discussing their remarkable incompetence. And when discussing Mike Waltz, I am alluding to his incompetence. This guy is a legitimate fucking dumbass. He's a stupid person. He's a buffoon. He's a moron. He's a dipshit. He's whatever fucking word you want to call him. Remember, this is the guy who added Jeffrey Goldberg, the editor-in-chief of The Atlantic, to a fucking group chat that was discussing war crimes. This was also the guy who led the investigation into his own action, and he concluded that he's a fucking idiot. Names for a replacement have been discussed around the West Wing for weeks, but the plans to remove Waltz gained steam in recent days, according to 2 of the people and another person close to the White House. Waltz will be the first senior-level departure in the second Trump administration. The president has so far resisted pressure to remove cabinet officials and other top advisors. It is a stunning fall for the former member of Congress from Florida and a military veteran, even as he lands a coveted diplomatic job. This is not something that is new to the Trump administration. I remember many years ago when I was much younger, much more naive, had a lot less hair on my head, and also a little bit less hair on my face. One of my key takeaways from the Trump administration was, wow, this guy really churns through administration officials, like several press secretaries, although that's not necessarily uncommon. I think Joe Biden had 2 during his tenure. Donald Trump had 2 in like 3 months in his first term. He went through like 5 secretaries of defense. The unfortunate reality of this situation is that when you are a raging narcissist like Donald Trump is, you don't understand the importance of surrounding yourself with people who actually know what the fuck they're doing, of people who actually have a brain capable of handling the tasks assigned to them when they work in a specific department. Donald Trump needs to feel like the smartest person in the room at the entire time, or all the time. And this leads him to hiring sycophants, lackeys, people who are grossly unqualified for these positions, and therefore fail spectacularly when tasked with doing any actual work. Look at not only Mike Waltz, but Pete Hegseth is another guy who is just so fucking ill-equipped to deal with being the Secretary of Defense. There is, however, something I need to clarify. Donald Trump did do this a little bit more in his first term. He still hired blithering idiots, but at least those people were willing to stand up to him in a certain degree. Now he has literally just stands littered throughout his administration. Trump said Secretary of State Marco Rubio will serve as National Security Advisor in the interim. It is unclear who will step up to run the influential White House National Security Council on a permanent basis. Currently, a leading pick is Trump's special envoy Steve Witkoff, who is shepherding negotiations with Russia, Iran, and Hamas in Gaza, according to 3 of the people. Other possible contenders include Trump's top policy chief, Stephen Miller, NSC senior director for counterterrorism, Sebastian Gorka, and Trump's special envoy for special missions, Richard Grenell. Special envoy for special missions sounds like a term that you would give your little cousin when you're playing Halo 2 together on split screen with two controllers. How is this a job in government? Asked for comment on the then pending announcement, White House spokesperson Caroline Leavitt said, quote, "We are not going to respond to reporting from anonymous sources." Waltz's departure jolts a national security team plagued by chaos and turmoil as Trump's team tries to broker diplomatic ends to conflicts in 3 theaters and wages a global trade war. Deputy National Security Advisor Alex Wong is also expected to leave, according to 2 people familiar with the matter. The White House's intention to remove Waltz and Wong was previously reported by journalist Mark Halperin on his streamed show The Morning Meeting. Waltz rose from the House Armed Services Committee to the top echelons of the U.S. national security landscape in just 6 years, since The Atlantic first reported on the existence of the Signal chat in which top Trump administration officials discussed plans to attack members of the Iran-backed Houthi militant group in Yemen. Questions swirled within the White House about Waltz's future. When liberal outlets covered this, they fixated exclusively on like the breach of protocol that this is. How dare they have this conversation in an unsanctioned manner? You know, they should have gone through all of the appropriate channels. And when I covered it, I did give credence to that. I did recognize that, yeah, you know, this may or may not be in the best interest of national security, whatever. My bigger point was that they were openly discussing war crimes, illegal war crimes, with a prominent media member. I think the optics of the situation in Trump's eyes really highlighted to him that, hey, maybe this guy is a stumbling buffoon. Like, this guy should not have been in this position to begin with. It's also, maybe I'm just being ageist, but whenever I think of government bureaucrats who work in these elevated levels of the federal government, who exist within these roles, I don't think of like young people, and that is almost exclusively who Trump has hired to fill most of these positions. And I don't mean young like my age or like in their 30s or 40s. I mean like younger relative to what you would expect. Like Pete Hegseth is like what, 45, near 50. Previous sec devs have been like in their 50s, their 60s, their early 70s. Same thing with national security people. Like, it's this fucking idiot, it's Tulsi Gabbard. Like, how are you expecting to get anything done with this group? You literally have a G League team of intelligence officials. While Trump and administration officials repeatedly voiced confidence in Waltz, many in the West Wing were also furious at Waltz's sloppy misstep. Waltz created the chat and mistakenly added Jeffrey Goldberg, the editor of The Atlantic, to the conversation. The information concerning the March airstrikes, including the timing and weapons used, was likely highly classified per former and current officials. Waltz has further been weakened after far-right activist Laura Loomer met with Trump and persuaded him to fire several members of the NSC and top officials, including the director of the NSA, General Tim Haug, over security concerns. Loomer also targeted Waltz's deputy, Wong, accusing the son of Chinese immigrants of advancing Chinese interest. In response to reports of Waltz's ouster, Loomer sent a one-word text to Politico Loomered. It is so obscene that there is, I mean, she's like obviously an open white supremacist, but she's firing people. She's getting people fired on the grounds of racism. She's getting, there is discriminatory action and discriminatory malice being placed upon this gentleman. And she thinks it's funny. Like, dude, is the Botox seeping into her brain? It's gotta be. How are you so, like, whatever happened to shame is the only thing I can ask myself. I can also ask myself that in regards to Donald Trump. Like, why does he have this psychopath around him? Why is he taking advice from someone who is legitimately insane, a person who handcuffed herself to Twitter HQ when she got banned. Am I necessarily surprised considering the gross incompetence of the Trump administration? No, but it's just really fascinating seeing these kinds of details be highlighted in regular ass media reports. I feel like in Trump 1, this was stuff that was exclusively saved for like liberal, like libbed up books by like Bob Woodward, who were detailing all of like, the ridiculous shit all of like the ridiculous surface level shit going on with the Trump administration. And now this is just like regular news. Politico is basically like, hey, there was an Asian guy, there was a Chinese man who was fired by Laura Loomer on the grounds that he was just Chinese and that and that his parents are Chinese spies, and he was actually sent here to be the general of the army of Chinese immigrants that are being sent over by Xi Jinping to sow unrest within the United States. The scandal and Waltz's inability to shield his staff from Loomer's efforts significantly hindered his ability to wield influence in the administration, with officials at the White House and State Department increasingly questioning his ability to run the NSC effectively. Chief of Staff Susie Wiles was so frustrated with Waltz that she has been barely speaking to him, according to two people familiar with the matter. Like, you got this is like Susie Wiles is the meme where it's like my face when I reap what I sow. You guys did this to yourself. The Trump admin is exclusively to blame for all of this this incompetence befalling them. You guys know that, like, you hired the stupidest people on the planet with intentionality. The only question asked during these interviews was, will you unwaveringly support Donald Trump? That was it. And they were like, yes, I will change his diapers. I will let him fart on me. I will personally bring him a Diet Coke every time he presses the button. And they're like, perfect. You're hired. You're going to be the Treasury Secretary. You're going to be responsible for making sure that our national security is safe. Why the fuck are you shocked? You should not be shocked. If Susie Wiles is like so beside herself that this is possible, she may be more naive. She may be the more naive person in this situation. Trump has had a fraught relationship with many of his national security advisors, seeing 4 people cycle through the role over 4 years when he was last in office. While other presidents have delegated authority to the national security advisor like a principal, Trump prefers a smaller body that functions more like a staff. Waltz suffered for acting more like a principal and less like a staffer, one close White House ally said. It is a sign that he was unable to gain influence. Waltz struggled to place people in top roles at the NSC. Many key posts remain empty after other members of the White House blocked his choices for key senior director NSC posts on strategy, nuclear, and strategic issues in African affairs, among others. His picks were viewed by hardline MAGA appointees in the White House as too establishment. In the case of Africa, 3 of Waltz's picks were rejected in a row. The post remains unfilled. Waltz's firing is likely to turn attention to the embattled Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth. Trump has continued to defend him, even as the signal scandal and ensuing revelations of other similar text threats have rattled the Pentagon and seen the departure of many of his top 8. I am not surprised by this extraordinary level of stupidity within all of the Trump administration officials. Of all the things that I was expecting in this Trump term, this is quite possibly the only thing that I actually expected to this degree. When it comes to policy, I did not expect him to be as damaging so quickly. When it came to the Israel-Palestine conflict, I did not expect him to escalate it so rapidly. But when it comes to the turnover of his staff and the ability to fill these key positions, I'm not surprised by this in the slightest. This is what happens when you hire unqualified employees. if Trump had DEI initiatives in his White House, maybe this stuff would be happening less. Because all he's left with are the fucking court jesters of Washington, D.C.